Hello, and welcome to the Context Podcast. This is the show where we review stories reported by the Namibian newspaper during the course of the week. My name is John Kolanamene, and I'm joined by my colleague,
Enoke Kaumba.
All right, let's take a look at some of the stories that made headlines during the past week.
In an unfortunate story in Khobabi's 1-month-old Gabriel Klute sustained head injuries and subsequently died while being transported with his parents and a sibling in the back of a police van. We spoke to Tia Zia, who wrote the story, together with Mati Kamizi, to give us more details on this story.
What actually happened was that my colleague Matty was the one that wrote the story. However, because of the communication barrier between the couple, being Damaranama and Matty not, I had to step in and do translations. So because of that, I was part and parcel of the story. So as the parents explained to me, what happened is that their blankets were stolen by a family member, of which they could not get back on their own. So they decided to go to the police station, right, and report this incident in hopes that the police would help them retrieve or, get their blankets back. They were assigned a police officer who told them to get in the back of the police van, right, so that they can go collect these blankets. However, unfortunately, Ms. Klute had a baby with her. So she had two kids with her. She had her 1-year-old and then the baby that died in the car ride or the police van ride. They were told to get in the back of the van so that they can go do the pickup. However, they claim that this police ride was very reckless and that, when they took, I think, a very sharp turn, they hit themselves against the police van where the baby hit his head as well. And yeah, the baby cried out very, very loud and then became quiet after a while, upon which they thought, no, the baby fell asleep. The police and the couple got to the house where the blankets were. And once they got their blankets, the police officer actually left them there and drove away. That's what they said to me. The police drove away and the couple from that place of residence had to walk back to their house. They described the walk as very dark and scary because they claim that Khobabas can be a very dangerous town to live in, especially for two older people at that time of the night. Upon arriving at home, Ms. Klute then handed over the baby to Mr. Asep, who's the father, so that she can then make the bed. Mr. Klute then Mr. Asep then explained to me that once the baby was handed over to him, the baby was ice cold. Upon further inspection, they realized that the baby had a dent in his head and he was bleeding from the left nostril. They tried looking for transport to take the baby to the hospital, but there was no help. No one was able to help them. So they had to sit with the dead baby from 10 o'clock. They stated it was 10 o'clock in the evening until 7 in the morning, where another police officer came and collected the baby's body.
So I see there's a case of culpable homicide that was opened at the police station of Khobabas. Do you have any knowledge whether the police officer who was driving the van has been arrested or not?
Upon talking to the parents on Friday, they explained to me that they still did not get a hold of the police officer. They tried calling multiple times to just get the name of the police officer that was driving the van. And until today, they do not know who exactly it is. They are claiming that it's because the police are busy protecting each other. With that added, what they also mentioned to us is that when they were opening the culpable homicide case, they arrived at Apako police station, which was where the incident took place or where the police officer was from. However, they did not want to open the case. So they were then sent to a police station in town. Upon arrival, which they were sent back again because the police in town told them that the incident should be reported at the station or at the duty station of where it took place.
So it seems that the police is very defensive about this matter. Reading the story, I see Police Inspector Ndetunga's sentiments point to the very, or I think further echo my point that they're being very defensive on this issue. What are your thoughts on his comments to the story?
So unfortunately, I am not the one that contacted the police inspector. However, what I'm getting from his response is that he did not know about the initial case that was opened against the police officer at Epako police station in Khobabas. However, his comments make it seem like there is no accountability, first of all. And secondly, mentioning before, he extended on his comment, mentioning that he's unaware of the allegations that have been, going around. I feel like the appropriate step would have been, taking a step back and finding out what actually happened and what transpired, then making a comment. However, from his comment, obviously, like you said, it was very defensive. And I believe it was just lack of accountability from their side.
Any possible developments to the story? Have there been any developments since?
Yeah, the parents actually informed us that Norman Chombe, who is a prominent human rights lawyer, has contacted the parents with the aim of actually helping them with the case and, assisting them. We were informed that he wants to order another autopsy for the baby. So meaning the baby has not been buried yet because they're afraid that if that happens, evidence will be buried with the baby.
On a personal level, outside of journalism, how does the story make you feel?
For a startup journalist, that's just myself, it was quite difficult because remember this interview was done in Damara, or it was made in Damara, so meaning that it was a bit more personal for me. And as much as we'd like to directly translate what the couple is feeling and, how they're expressing themselves, it's quite impossible. So I try to the best of my abilities to make sure that everybody else that, reads the story and hears about the story understands that, what they were pained about the most was the fact that this child was not even sick. And it was the day he turned 1 month. So it was a bit difficult for the parents because they indeed did inform us that they wanted to raise the little boy and that they've lost the soul, which obviously no one is, taking accountability for.
Monday's paper reported a story on government houses being sold for discounted prices or quote-unquote peanuts. An example of this was when politician Faustinus Wakudumu bought a plot and a caravan for as little as 26,800 Namibian dollars last year. Another example of this includes senior government officials benefiting from what appears to be a scheme to use about 10 million Namibian dollars of state funds to build lavish houses in upper Echelon Windhoek suburbs. This scheme allowed government officials to buy houses for as little as 300,000 Namibian dollars for a house that cost at least 2 million Namibian dollars. Last year, Works and Transport Minister John Mutora asked the current executive director in the ministry, Esther Kapanda, to answer detailed questions from the Namibian newspaper on why the government continues to sell houses for cheap prices. Kapanda has failed to answer these questions since last October, despite countless promises to do so.
The Icelandic fishing company involved in the fish rod scandal, Samherji, was reported to be manipulating the Namibian tax system by registering some of their employees who work in Namibia as cargo vessel employees for Samherji's subsidiary on the Faroe Islands. We spoke to Esther Mbathera, who gave us more insight on the story.
So what happened, according to reports coming from Faroe Islands, is that the tax authorities there reported Samherji for tax evasions in Namibia using a company in Faroe Islands. So what happened is, what they suspect is that they registered employees who were then working in Namibia, but they registered them as if they were working in Faroe, so that somehow that they can get their salary in Faroe Island as opposed to in Namibia.
So when the employees came to Namibia, they weren't registered as employees that work in Namibia.
Now there is the tricky part, which I'm still trying to understand how that was possible, because the Department of Maritime DMA in the Ministry of Works Transport, you have as an employer, you have to give in the names of everybody that goes into the Namibian Ocean, into the Namibian waters. And then also, but what I understand from the Namibia Maritime Officers Association, they are saying that the possibility of that happening is there, because the recruitment of foreign crew members is normally done by agencies. Now, when the agencies are doing it, nobody actually controls what they're doing.
So it's not well regulated.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's not well regulated. However, I spoke to some insiders that had work in the Samheri companies within Namibia, that says that they believe that it's not possible, because they believe that with the fish rot investigations, then ACC would have picked it up, unless if it's then on the problem lies then with our ACC, that they didn't pick that up when they were doing the fish rot investigations. Yeah. But the Faroe guys are adamant that yes, they did pick up that about, it should be around 14 crew members who were working in Namibia. They were not registered. They were registered here on the system. But when it comes to salaries, it's possible that their salaries were then not paid in Namibia, but rather paid in Faroe Island. So in that way, they could then evade tax.
Now, I see here you wrote about a media report that indicated that Samheri paid about $2.7 million US dollars to tax authorities on the Faroe Islands. Was that $2.7 million that they paid the tax that they were supposed to pay in Namibia?
Okay, John, correction. It's 1.7. It's 17 million.
Is it 17 million US dollars?
No,
Namibian dollars.
It's equivalent to the Faroe currency.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Was that the money that they were supposed to pay Namibia in tax?
No, in tax they owe Namibia 43 million.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened is that they paid this money already to the Faroe when the stories broke. Samheri then paid the 17 million to the tax authorities in Faroe Islands. Last night, the CEO of the tax authority in Faroe Island, actually, he was on TV again. I partly watched and then with some of the YouTube translations, what I could sense is that he said, yes, they received the money.
Right.
Yeah, and then they are saying that nobody from Namibia has actually come forth to claim for the money. So they're still deciding as to what will happen to the money, because it is for Namibia then to claim the money back. But Namibia also has to prove that, yes, indeed, this number of people worked in Namibia and they did not pay tax here.
Now, based on what you just said now and what and the developments from yesterday, what do you think are further possible developments that can come out of this saga?
The positive development is that actually this is opening up a can of worms for the industry, the regulation of our fishing industry itself. Because look, this is just because we are all zooming into Samheri's activity. But remember, most of the foreign vessels, most of the vessels that we own that are operating in the Namibian waters are operated by foreign employees. We've got a lot of Russians. We have some Spanish, we have some Ukrainian on the vessels. So all of these people are, and we have probably over 400 of them on the different, especially in the freezer vessels, the horse mackerel freezer vessels. So it needs actually for all of us, for the authorities to go in and check on every one of those employees, because it could be that Samheri did it for these 14 people. Now, how about all the other vessels? Because unfortunately, at the moment, with the fish rot investigations, all our attention is directed at one company. But we have not gone back and said, look, let's then just go in throughout the whole industry and get to understand how the setup is. Because it is not, like I said, with Namosa explanation, where they're saying that the recruitment of foreign crew is done by agencies, and these are the people that are assisting companies to actually evade tax. And what is also interesting is that on the article yesterday, there was a comment that was made that says that the actual person who assisted Samheri to evade tax is a employee of a BDO in Namibia, a certain Master Simon Stein. And they are saying he's here. Why are we not getting hold of him?
Exactly.
So the positivity that we can get out is that a lot of companies, if we go back, there is a lot of money that Namibia could have lost through this whole scam of tax evasion within the fishing industry. And it is money that our authorities need to go and claim back.
Now, as we spoke earlier, we concluded that that the industry isn't very well regulated. And just based on what you said as well, have you ever heard of, besides this, any other tax evasion sagas within the industry before? Or is it just because, like you said, because of the fish shot scandal, we're specifically zooming in to Samheri that now we got a whiff of this?
Look, tax evasions are, especially in the fishing industry, where it's also when we got alerted to the Panama Papers, where a lot of some companies also within Namibia have registered other offshore companies in the islands, the Panama Islands, Mauritania, and all of in Cayman Islands, and all of that. And we are not somehow we're not doing enough to go and investigate or go deeper into this documentation. The journalists, investigative journalists, have really done a lot of work to expose all of this, but it just doesn't seem like anything is happening from our side.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
No, Esther, those are all the questions we have for you today. We're looking forward to possible.
John, the only other thing that I would also wanted to add is that, look, especially when it comes to the regulation of our industries, especially the industries that requires foreign investors, we need to be, our authorities need to be transparent with information. They need to explain to the nation as to what is what. How does one go about? Because if you go to Ministry of Home Affairs, and ordinary person who just wants to come and set up a business here, it takes him longer to actually register his business versus somebody who goes via the politicians.
Of course.
And we need to close those loopholes. That everything that needs to be done has to be done either. If you're setting up a business, you go through the Namibia Trade Forum. They give you the go-ahead or the recommendations and so on, so that people do not have to go and bribe people and do all illegal things because of our stringent measures or policy. They are pushing our people, a lot of investors, to go the dodgy route of doing business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But I also think that there needs to be a body that can regulate all these activities and all of these deals, for lack of better words, you understand. And I think that's what's lacking, because yes, we need more work from authorities and need more input from the authorities, but we also need to regulate the authorities somehow. The authorities need to account to somebody, because nobody tells them that what they're doing is right or what's wrong, you understand. So I think there should be a huge call for that as well. But I think also that the Chamber of Commerce and Industry needs to come in here, because they are the ones that are, assisting locals to team up with foreign investors to grow the economy. They need to come in here and assist. Definitely. Yeah. No, thank you so much, Esther. We look forward to developments of the story, and I mean with other stories related to the industry as well. And keep up the good work. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, John.
All right. Bye. We'll talk soon. Ciao.
Lastly, Journalist of the Year, Sonia Smith, wrote an interesting article that received a lot of attention on social media, perhaps for the wrong reasons. The article was titled Raising Another Man's Child and includes personal stories from men who were lied to by their partners about the paternity of children they raised. The story received frivolous comments on social media, with people making fun of the men for raising another man's child. Enoch, would you raise another man's child?
Well, Sonia really is the journalist of the year. Very, very good story, man. I don't know. I mean, I love kids. I mean, I don't have kids of my own. I would love to have kids in the future. But I mean, I think even a human being on their own, just finding out that you've been raising someone that's not yours, I think that's really devastating.
I share the same thoughts, man. I don't think I have the strength to raise somebody else's child. Never mind the frivolous comments on social media. I'm not scared of that. I just don't think I really have, the strength to raise another man's child. But that's just my opinion. To each his own. You know.
Yeah.
All right. This is all we have for you in today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time. Cheers.